Hey guys, before we start this video, I want to give a special thanks and shout outs to Eon is the Winged. She did help me out in putting together the summarized information for this particular video, so thank you so much, Eons. And now without further ado, let's go ahead and watch the video. Hey guys, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here. Welcome back again to my YouTube channel, and I have another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video for you guys, continuing the brand new series I started, The Art of, and today we're gonna have The Art of Cid Highwind from Final Fantasy VII, because this character is going to be getting some upgrades along with a brand new weapon and his C90 awakening on Global Opera Omnia very soon. Again, just to remind you, I will not be going into any type of banner discussion because the purpose of this video series is to not convince you guys whether or not you should be pulling for the character. There's already other content creators that do that, such as Simply Lost, Josepher, and Black Nero, so be sure to check them out on their respective YouTube channels and show them some love. And I'm no longer going to be going into nitty-gritty data such as percentages, how long a buff lasts, when it falls off. All of that can be found in resources such as Dissidia Compendium, Dissidia DB, Tonberry Troop, so be sure to check those out as well. But the purpose of this series, again, is to give you guys some straightforward gameplay, how the skills work or skill rotations, what are the character's strengths, and what kind of party members you could use in order to kind of work around their weaknesses. And the focus is going to be, again, on Cid Highwind. Let's go ahead and get started on The Art of Cid Highwind from Final Fantasy VII. So he's going to be getting his rework, and he's going to be getting his C90 as well as his LD weapon. Those are all the brand new upgrades that this character is going to get. I'm going to tell you guys right now, his skill 1 and his skill 2, the upgrades that they get from the rework are kind of basic and generic. More damage. I believe skill 2 gets more splash damage because pretty much every button that you press with this character is going to be dealing splash damage outside of his EX skill. So Cid is pretty versatile, or consistent, I mean, as far as like dealing damage to like multiple enemies, because he either has split damage or he's splash damage or 100% AoE damage. So pretty much he has that going for him. If you guys forgot what kind of a character he is, well, he's a ranged damage dealer specializing in the wind element. He has a wind self-enchant coming from his C65, and he also gets that from his new overhead effect, which we're going to touch on later, coming from his LD. And then he also has wind imperil. So he makes enemies weak to the wind element, which allows him to deal more damage. For being a damage dealer, he has some pretty cool utility with HP heals, brave refunds. He can also dispel and delay enemies, and because of that, he has good self-sustainability. Now, the standouts, the two biggest standouts in my opinion for this character are going to be coming from that EX, which he gets instant access to at the start of the battle, and obviously coming from his brand new skill, which is his LD. So we're going to go ahead and get started off with the demo by actually showing off the EX skill first. But before we do that, let me go ahead and delay these enemies' turns. Alright, Cypher Call doing his thing, and I took a mid-Italian as another party member just to further make sure these guys don't get a turn during this demo. This is Rude's Lost Chapter Lufenia. This is the punching bag for this particular The Art of video. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and just C65 so we get that self-wind enchant. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start off with the first thing that I feel like this character, stands out in, which is gonna be his EX. So his EX deals 13 HP dumps. That's a lot. 13 HP dumps, but behind each of those is a singular brave attack, and just like how it was before, this is distributed singular brave attack, so not all enemies are going to be hit with that brave attack, but then again, remember, 13 HP dumps. And then the biggest upgrade that it got, outside of it dealing more damage, is the HP attacks are now dealt at 100% to all enemies, so you don't have to worry about it being split, splash, it's just straight up 100% HP damage. So let's go ahead and just press the button and see what this does now. And as you can see, 13 HP dumps with that distributed singular brave attack behind each of those HP dumps. He delays them, and it's a pretty cool skill. I would say that this particular skill, especially if you have the right setup party-wise, actually has a pretty high damage output if you set it up correctly. So with a mid-Italian, let's just go ahead and actually, you know what? I'm going to do this because I'll touch base as to why Kate Sith is actually a good party member, or even just as a call, can support Cid really well. Alright, and then we're just going to go ahead and make their turns disappear so we don't have any interruptions. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and touch base on his LD. So his LD, there's two cool things about it. First of all, the actual command itself deals 9 HP dumps, and this time they're behind, I think it's 2 brave hits that are also distributed. So it's, again, a lot of AoE damage. That's pretty much this character's specialty when it comes to damage. So we're just going to go ahead and take a look at it here. And what it does is it also increases the stacks of that LD effect. And the maximum amount of stacks that it has is 3. So it starts off at 1 and it goes to 3. And at 3, it's going to be triggering an off-turn damage attack, or if you want to call it a follow-up even, whatever you want to call it. And it's actually pretty cool, and we get to see it trigger right here because this particular follow-up attack or off-turn damage attack triggers after Cid's ally takes their turn. So we're going to go ahead and see that right here. A mid-Italian is going to take their turn, and then Cid comes in with this attack. And this one has 6 HP dumps, and it's behind 2 brave hits per attack. And what's cool about it is that he heals the party's brave based on his attack, and then afterwards, he also refunds the party based on the HP damage dealt. So it's a party brave refund based on HP damage dealt, and he also brave heals you before the attack even triggers based on his attack. So it's a pretty powerful attack. It's very unique to this character, which is kind of like a cool selling point if you are actually going to be building Cid as a damage dealer. Now, I want to touch up on his rotation because we were just talking about his EX being kind of like one of his biggest highlights. So what's cool about his EX is that it charges really, really quickly. So at the start of the battle, you could open up with his EX because he already has the LD active effect, and every time he takes a turn, he gets 1 stack of his LD effect. Then after you use the EX, you would go into LD like I did prior, and then you could go into one of his skills, so either skill 1 or skill 2, whichever one you want to use. And then once his turn comes up, as you can see right there, we have his EX available right away. So he has a pretty fairly, easy rotation to follow up. You go EX at the beginning, you go LD, and then afterwards you go into one of his skills, and then pretty much you'll be seeing that follow up happen, pretty fairly consistently. I do wish that the stacks would have increased after anybody takes their action. I think that would have made it more consistent. But the fact that it triggers after each, after 3 stacks whenever Cid takes an action kind of gives you like a cool rotation to play with. So some things I want you guys to keep note of with Cid Highwind after seeing this. So remember, he's a ranged wind damage dealer with self, enchant, and imperil. He has utility as well with HP heals, brave refunds, dispel, and delay, which gives him that good self-sustainability. His biggest standouts to me are going to be that his EX post C90 and his LD with its special effects as well. He has a potentially high HP damage output, especially with having so many HP dumps. He has 13 with the EX, he has 9 with the LD, and then he has 6 with that LD follow-up or off-turn damage, whatever you want to call it. And then, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, he deals split HP damage, splash damage. Pretty much it makes him a very consistent damage dealer against multiple targets, such as what we're looking at right here with 3 enemies. Now, the character's weaknesses. So he does have low distributed brave hits. And what I mean is, like, for example, his 13 HP attacks tied to his EX, behind it is 1 brave hit. So if you really want to capitalize on the amount of damage he could potentially do, you're going to want to run him with units that provide simply brave and HP damage up, so he really racks up the amount of damage he could do. And you also want to use some sort of like brave refund character, such as, for example, Cait Sith. The reason why Cait Sith complements him is because anytime you deal crit damage, it gives you back some brave per crit damage that you do in between. So you could really rack up the amount of brave damage that you could do, which also in turn helps out the amount of HP damage he could do. Now, because he is a damage dealer and an LD only character damage dealer, if you really want to make this character shine and maximize his potential to his fullest, he's going to want full investment. Full investment meaning you're probably going to want an ultimate weapon on him, because that is coming out soon to Global Opera Omnia as well. You're definitely going to want to probably have his armor blued, but you also got to weigh your options. Do I want to use this character who has kind of a unique kind of a skill set for a damage dealer but is an LD only character, or do I want to forego just going with just raw damage with an actual burst character that deals a lot of damage and they have a burst weapon tied to their kit? So those are the options that you got to go for, but pretty much that is Cid Highwind's playstyle and kit in a nutshell with what he's going to be getting post C90 with his rework and as well as his LD, alongside some characters that you may want to consider that would benefit him if you do decide to use him in your party. Thank you guys again for watching. Stay tuned for the next video, and mahal everybody.